Welcome, everyone, to Peace and Purpose Virtual Retreat. It is your girl, Jackie Clark, and today I am here with CEO of Black Millionaires, Mr. James Hill. Thank you so much for being here.
I appreciate you and everyone involved in the whole rolling out crew for having me on.
Thank you. I'm so excited to get to this conversation because a lot of people are looking to get wealth from social media or just looking to be that blueprint for their next generation and create substantial wealth for their family. But it really starts with the mindset. It really starts with a few key factors. And you've done it, you've built it, you've helped millions of people. I can't, well, millions, but you've helped thousands of people build millions and possibly more. So I really am interested in picking your brain, getting to know more about you, and sharing some advice for our audience. So, first things first, because I want to get to know about you, if you could describe yourself in one word, what would it be and why?
The one word I would describe myself is resilient. I'm from a background, east side of Detroit, born and raised. I lost my mom at 4 years old to gun violence. Me and my sister was in and out of the foster care home for 2 to 3 years before we got adopted by my grandmother and my father, who had just recently got out of jail, which is why we couldn't go with him. But my whole life is about resilience. When I was younger, the last time my parents put me in school was first grade. Ever since then, middle school, high school, and even college, I was the one that went up, signed, forged all the documents, the paperwork to put myself through school, even higher education. I got a bachelor's degree in marketing and communication, and I did it all on my own willingness. I'm not going to say I did it all on my own because obviously there's professors, there's teachers, and everybody who poured into me. But if it wasn't for me being resilient and not taking no for an answer, then I don't know where I would be. I would be somewhere in the streets doing something I don't have no business doing, or just somewhere working at a dead end job that I hate. But I was resilient and I put myself through, pulled myself up, and realized that education was the key to success, and educated myself personally, professionally, and that's how I got to where I am today.
Well, like that was just a whole lot in one. And I am just in awe. I never knew that side of your story, and my condolences on your mom. But congratulations on wanting better for yourself at such a young age, putting yourself through school. Like I barely wanted to go to school when I was
I love school. Yeah, school was my outlet because again, growing up on the east side of Detroit, there's so much going on around you, so much things you don't understand as a kid, poverty, the whole thing. So going to school was my outlet. I love to study. I love to read. I had a bunch of friends. I was popular. I was the class clown. So people they looked forward to me to come into the class. I was also the teacher's pet, right? Because the teacher couldn't control me on the other side of the room. So they had to put me right next to him in order for me to, do my thing. Because I was so smart. I got my work done and I just wanted to proceed and talk to everybody. So I was the best of both worlds. And school was something that really allowed me to push through all the things that were going on at home and around me in the neighborhood.
That's amazing, and it's so great to see that like you wanted more for your life and you wanted education. You don't hear a lot of people talk about I love school, I loved education. You don't hear it often, so it's really refreshing, actually. So within that, before you created Black Millionaires, what did you want to be? Did you have an idea of who you wanted to be in life?
It's kind of weird. When I was younger, I always just said I wanted to be on TV. I wanted my own TV show. I looked up to people like Oprah and things like that. I didn't really understand the dynamics of what she was building. I didn't know she was a billionaire. But I did know she was on TV. She had her own TV show. So I did look up to individuals like that. I studied commercials. So I used to love watching the Super Bowl and things like that for the commercials. And me and my sister used to always run upstairs to go get our food so we can come back and make sure we don't miss the show that we were watching and to make sure we don't miss the commercials that we were looking at. So I always wanted to be in some form of media. I didn't really know what kind of media I wanted to do. Obviously, social media wasn't even out when I was young. So I just thought I wanted to be on TV. I wanted to be in front of the camera. And that's all I really wanted to be. And I knew I wanted to be rich. And those are the only few things I wanted to do. Obviously, I'm a black man in America, so I thought I could fade away like Mike and LeBron and Kobe. So I played basketball when I was young, so I thought I was. I'm not even gonna say I thought I was gonna go to the NBA, but I had some wild dream of being able to make it in sports because I was really good. But I mean, I'm too short, so that dream faded away as soon as I got in high school playing with the big boys. But other than that, I always wanted to be in TV, media, and I wanted to be rich. That was the only things I can remember since I was younger.
I love that. First of all, you might have been short for basketball, but you could have did football. You know, football you could have
Oh
done.
no, football! I'm not even gonna lie. I wasn't tough enough for football. Like them pads, I used to play football a lot in the streets with no pads. That was a lot better for me. When I actually put the pads on, I couldn't handle it. I'm not gonna sit here and lie. So I gave up the football dream real early. I still had a basketball dream, but I gave up football early.
Oh, hilarious. Well, it's so refreshing to hear that because I feel like for you, there's probably a lot of young men, children in general, people in general who have had a similar life or in some sort of cadence, and that they could be inspired by you because you wanted more. You saw what you didn't want from a young age, and you knew you wanted more. And isn't it amazing to feel like now that you've kind of maybe not have everything that you've ever dreamed of, but you are on a pretty good pedestal? How does it feel to kind of dream about what you've wanted and then have some level of that success?
Well, it's kind of a double-edged sword because ever since I was, 5 or 6 years old, I knew I wanted to be rich. I knew I wanted to be on TV. I love attention and things like that. I was the class clown. So I knew this was going to happen.
Mm.
So at a young age, it was hard for me to enjoy some of the things a kid was supposed to do, even in college. I still remember being in college at college parties. Everybody's drinking, everybody's having a fun time. And I used to be in there stressing out, like, man, I want to be successful. I should be studying. So I didn't really know, I didn't really have a balance growing up of, hey, it's time to be with family and friends and enjoy things. I used to always think about, hey, man, I want to get better. I want to read. I want to study. A lot of people didn't understand me growing up in the neighborhood, walking around with books and, listen to audio books in the car when my family get in my car and they like, turn on that new music, right? Turn on that new Young Jeezy, and I'm listening to a book. So I was always pushing for better. But when opportunities came to me, I capitalized on them. So a lot of people see what I'm doing now in media, but 7, 8 years ago, I was making, hey, how's it going? 7, 8 years ago, I was making like corny videos in college, and people were laughing at me, and girls was not returning my call. But I always knew I was going to get to where I was at. I just didn't know how old I was going to be. I didn't know how the path was going to come, but I really trust in a higher purpose, and I believe that I'm destined to be where I'm at. So with that responsibility, I always kind of forward projected my life to be where it's at. So I'm very humble and grateful for where I'm at, but I realize that I have a responsibility to give back to other people and to bring other people up along with me. So I say that to say, um, even though I'm young, I'm 28, by the way. Even though I'm young, I still feel like I'm so behind in life, and I know that's not healthy. But and maybe social media is a part of that. But even though I'm ahead of a lot of people to their standard of a 28-year-old, in my mind, I feel like, man, like maybe them college parties I was slacking. Like maybe I need to get on it more, right? So I always feel when I wake up that I need to be working 10 times harder than I did yesterday. So that can be good, and sometimes that can be bad.
It's so amazing that at such a young age, under 30, that you've established so much and you've built so much for yourself and that you still want more. I'm 35 and I totally resonate with the wanting more and you feel like you should be doing more. It is a double-edged sword. It is a catch
Yeah,
22 because we don't
yeah,
know how to relax. We don't know just to be in the moment a lot. But I said this on a call the other day. I was talking to a client and we were talking about something. And I literally had said, they asked me how I was doing. And I said, it's a lot right now in terms of building my brand and business because I said, when you are the blueprint, the burden is heavy. And
yes,
when you are that change maker, that, you know, the generation curse breaker, that person to do it
yes,
for everybody else, the burden of the future that we can't even see is so prevalent on our heart that we
yes,
want more. But it is a double-edged sword because for our age, and I'm going to say us because I feel like you and I are here, we're in sync here. We've
Yeah,
accomplished so much. And I know I get told by my friends, look at all that you've done. You should be grateful. But for me, it's like, if you won the Pulitzer Prize, I was supposed to, like
exactly.
it's not news, it's not excitement because we want so much more, but trying to really live in the moment of where we are, appreciate and gratefulness of what we've become is something we have to do. But this is the entrepreneurial life, and
Mhm.
speaking of wanting more and wanting to success and helping people, you built and created, Black Millionaires. So what is Black Millionaires for those who don't know, and how does it help people achieve a form of success?
Yes, Black Millionaires is a digital marketing platform and a marketing agency, and we allow entrepreneurs, and we reach 3 to 4 million millennials. That's I say millennials because that's our biggest demographic. Black millennials. We reach 3 to 4 million Black millennials a month through our social media platforms and all the content that we create. But it's really a platform that I created off of the skill set that I have with creating viral content. And once I realized that I have a skill to capture people's attention, again, like I always felt that burden of, man, you have this big responsibility, so you have to do something good. So I wanted to create a platform that speaks to positivity, that speaks to empowerment, that speaks to money, marketing, and motivation. Those are the three pillars of our company. And so we create a lot of viral content, just creating content around financial literacy principles that people, yeah, they might get a good laugh, they might get motivated, but it's always a lesson behind exactly what we're doing and what we're teaching. And then we allow different Black millionaires to come in to share their story and to teach our community about how to build wealth and how to grow and scale their businesses. So you can scale your business from a 9 to 5. So we have different 9 to 5 millionaires come on. For example, we just interviewed Kenneth Kelly. He's the CEO of one of the top largest Black-owned banks in America, first independent bank based out of Detroit and Minnesota. So he just came on and talked about estate planning, legacy planning, and he's not an entrepreneur. He's a CEO, but he's able to build a successful career. And we talk about corporate leadership a lot as well, because entrepreneurship isn't for everybody, but it's for somebody. So for those who want entrepreneurship, we bring those individuals around. And for those who want corporate leadership, we make sure we represent them as well, because there's plenty of ways to reach millions. You just got to stay on a path and figure out which way works best for you. And our whole goal is to create Black millionaires through our platform. So we show them and teach them how to get started with little to no money. A lot of times we think we need several hundreds of thousands of dollars, an office. You need all of this to get started, but really, in the palm of our hands, because of Steve Jobs and all of these other great entrepreneurs, we have a computer in our hand, which is our cell phone. So I try to teach a lot of people, because when I first started my business, I was a mortgage banker before I started my business. So I'm not just a guy talking about finance. I actually worked in finance. I was licensed across 18 states across the country, giving mortgages, helping people, pulling. I looked at 40, 50 credit reports a day. So I know what I'm talking about when it comes to finance. And one of the things I realized is, no matter your race, your age, your sex, or whatever, a lot of people just were not financially literate, even if they had a good job and making good income. So I wanted to create a platform that can educate people on not just how to make millions, but how to keep millions, how to protect millions, and how to pass on millions to your family and friends once you are no longer here, and leave a legacy. So that's really what the platform is all about. And I started the platform when I was 24, I believe. And I lost a bunch of money trying to start out in media, probably about $40,000 of my savings, because I was going out buying all this equipment, doing all of this. I thought I needed this big office and everything. But then when I realized that the content that I create from my phone, I was able to reach millions of people. I was able to turn my business around, create a profitable business, hire people all across the world, and I travel all across the world. We're based out of Atlanta, but I mean, I'm going to Houston next week to interview 2 more Black millionaires. We're going to be in New York. We have a lot of things going on. So um, the power is in your hand, in your cell phone, and that's what I try to allow and teach people to do with our platform.
Well, you got to come to Toronto and interview some millionaires. There's a lot out here as well, so make your way
Yeah.
across the border. But I love everything you talked about because I tell people all the time when they talk about creating content or they want to be on TV or something. I tell people YouTube, Instagram, it is its
Yes.
own network. It is free. It only costs you your time, and your time is valuable if you know what you're doing with your time. And
Yes.
that time can make you triple or double in revenue, but you have
Mhm.
to know what you're doing. But you touched on something that was really important. You talked about buying all this equipment, big office, and all these things. And
Right.
I think that is something, and I want to talk a bit little later on about misconceptions people have about building millions. But I think people think that they need these big cameras, these um,
Yes.
elaborate looking places to look the part when really, as long as you have a nice background, or it's not even about the background, it's
Yeah.
about
Just create.
content that you're creating, as long as it speaks to somebody, um, and it solves a problem. Most of us who are in media know that you have to solve a problem in order to gain the attraction you're looking for. You'll get what you want to get. I wanted to ask you, you talked about legacy planning, or you talked about interviewing somebody on legacy planning. I've never heard that term. Would you be able to describe it for us, or
Yeah. Legacy planning. So we're all here working every single day. We're building up assets, or we're building up a story, and our children need to be able to benefit from our story. So one of the problems in the Black community that a lot of people don't talk about is hardworking individuals work hard every day, whether they're an entrepreneur or business owner. They save their money, they acquire their real estate, they acquire cars, watches, whatever they buy, but they don't pass it on to the next generation. So every single generation in the Black community has to start at zero if we don't continue to legacy plan and estate plan. So estate is basically you passing your assets over once you pass away to your loved ones so they can start on your shoulders and not on the ground zero like maybe you had to start. And I'm not sitting here saying every Black person is poor, every Black person um, comes from a bad background, but the ones who get it understands that their children should be doing 10 times better than they did. So a big problem in our community is wanting our kids to struggle because we struggle. And that's just not the point of legacy planning, legacy building, or working hard in general. So I talk a lot about legacy planning and estate planning because no matter your income, no matter your wealth or the assets you have, you should have a will. You should have an estate plan. You should have a trust. And these things in our mind, we think, oh my God, a trust probably costs $100,000. No, you can get started with $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, and you can even get on a payment plan with an attorney that can help you get this set up. And then a lot of people say, well, I don't have assets. Well, you should have a bank account, which is assets. You should have a income stream, which you're going to have insurance to protect that income stream and things like that. And you can put your insurance plan for your trust fund. That way, you don't have to go to probate court. And probate court takes 20% to 30% of the Black wealth that comes through generations, which is why a lot of Black people start at zero, because if you pass away, your assets have to go to probate court, and lawyers and attorneys and accountants and appraisals. All of these people get their hands on your money before your kids do. And I didn't vote for him, but Donald Trump passed a law that allowed the assets that you take over to your kids. It went from 5 million to 11 million, which means if you die a multimillionaire and you worth 5 or 10 million, you shouldn't even pay estate taxes passing it on to your kids, right? So a lot of us don't know this, and a lot of us don't plan for this, which is why if you don't plan, you plan to fail. So 20 to 30% of the wealth we do have is going through probate court, and that's because legacy planning and estate planning is something that we lack in our community.
Like, I just feel like I need to go and look. Like, I literally quickly like grab my phone and made a quick note. I need to and I know it's obviously different in the US and in Canada term, like whatever that is, but I haven't even thought of that. And it's something now I'm like, oh man, like I need to think about this. And I love that you're sharing this because, everybody is on this road to get rich, but they're not sustaining their wealth, because they don't know where to put their things. They don't know about that. If you
Yeah.
made these millions and something happens to you, the amount of money that gets, all the hands that touch it before it gets to your family is is immense. And so, I'm so grateful that you shared that nugget, and I'm glad I asked that question because that on its own is just mind blowing. So, in your opinion, how would you define the term millionaire mindset? Sorry.
Yeah, so a lot of times when people hear the word millions or even billions, they think about the money that they have in their account, the things that they can go out and buy. But it's not the actual money that's the real wealth. Was really, and this took me a long time. Again, I'm from the east side of Detroit. So when I used to hear rich people say this, oh, it's the person you become, and it's not all about the money. I used to be like, yeah, nah, y'all just don't want us to get rich, right? But when I start getting around very, very wealthy people, and I'm talking about people who worth hundreds of millions and almost billions of dollars, what I realize is money is the lowest form of wealth. It is a form of wealth. Obviously, you need money to survive, but money is the lowest form of wealth. The real wealth is access, which is why a lot of black and brown communities are denied access to certain things. They'll give you money. Like, think about all these cases that go around in police brutality and all that. They get a family money. They're not going to let that family member get access to some of the things that can change their life for generations. So they'll always write a check because they think, oh well, you're gonna blow it anyway in 2-3 years, like a lottery winner. So money is the lowest form of wealth. You need access and you need the right people around you. Wealthy people have wealthy friends that allow them to always stay wealthy. So if you fall off, but all your other friends are worth 10 and 15 million dollars, it's not hard for you in the next few years to go out and gain that wealth over again. Yesterday I had a very jam-packed day with meetings, and it hit me that the last 7 people I talked to yesterday were all worth probably about 15 to 20 million dollars. And I was like, how did this happen? Because just 3, 4, 5 years ago, some of the people I was spending my time with the most, like 5 years ago in college, like I was talking to people that I grew up with who was broke, who were from the hood just like me. And those are the people I was spending my time with all the time. Those are the people I was hanging out with. Those are the people I was giving all my time to. And then now it's like it's just a huge shift. And I'm looking at myself like, did I change? Did my environment change? What changed? And the reality is I started looking at wealth as larger than actual money. And when I start looking at wealth as larger than money, I start leveraging my money to get into these rooms and get into these places that allow me to network with the right millionaires and those who have a millionaire mindset. So wealthy people talk about ideas, they talk about progress, and a lot of people with the poverty mindset, they talk about other people and they spend their time on other people in the negative situations that's going on in the economy. And when you're rich in the mind and you're wealthy, every economy is a good economy if you know what you're doing and if you know how to invest. So it's just a different mentality when you coming from a millionaire mindset compared to someone who hasn't adopted that mindset. And you have to adopt the mindset before you even receive the money, because if you receive the money before the mindset, the money will go on. We see NFL players, 70% of them go broke after 3 years. 50% of basketball players who get these guaranteed big contracts go broke after 5 years. And it's all because the reason they became a professional basketball player or NFL player is the same reason that they go broke, is because they spent their whole life on their skill set and not their mindset. So your skill set can make you rich. Your mindset is going to keep you rich. And it doesn't matter how much money you make if you can't keep it. So you have to learn how to protect and keep your wealth and pass it on to the next generation. And that's what my platform is all about.
Bars. I mean, my mind is just blown by the wealth of information you just dropped. Like, it is, sorry, so important. For those who are watching, drop gems in the chat if you resonated with everything James has just said, because right now, like, it's taking everything for me to not be like banging the windows, to be like, this makes sense, because it's true. When you surround yourself with like-minded people, and I have this thing that I call, it's called like-minded tribe, and I'm very intentional about the people I do business with, the people I surround
Yes.
myself with. Last night I had the pleasure and honor of supporting a client, a mortgage client. They're a friend, but a mortgage client, and we did this big thing, box at the Raptors game. Never been to the Raptors game, and I'm Canadian, I know. Never been in the house, but everybody there was close to millionaires, or like have a certain stream of wealth, and it was a big networking thing, and the conversations that we were having were just mind blowing. And not, no shade to your friends or your family, but they can give you, they feed to a certain part of your personality, but then the growth part of your personality needs to also be fed as well, and you need to consistently surround yourself by those people, because they, like you said, they're never going to let you go broke, because if they see you lacking, just being around them, seeing how they move, seeing how they operate in business. Like, I love watching some of my wealthy friends conduct business meetings, and I'm just there like a fly on the wall, because I'm like, this is
Yes.
how they close, this is how they do these things. So everything you said was just so impactful, and I think more people need to know exactly that understanding. They think based on social wealth is millionaire mindset is, I have this big house, fancy cars, I'm on these jets and planes. Those are the privileges of what your mind has created. And I think if people think of that as the benefit, the privilege, then that's fine. But the benefit is knowing that if you lost those millions today, you can rebuild because you have the knowledge ingrained.
you
So
you hit on something that I want to stress and I want to talk about too, because I have the privilege of being around a lot of different people. I'm from the east side of Detroit, so I go when I go back to Detroit, I go back to the neighborhood I grew up in, and I'm talking to people who don't have no type of wealth, but they have a good heart and a good soul, and I hang around those people. Sometime I go, back to the neighborhood, play basketball, things like that, and a lot of times the people you are around that you think are the wealthiest, that talk about money all day, the wealthiest people that I be around, we don't talk about money.
yes.
The crazier thing, we talk about impact. We talk about, now we do talk about assets. Assets and money are different. Assets produce money. So we do talk about acquiring different assets and how we can leverage and grow those assets. But we don't talk about, hey, I made 100,000 last week, or I made 15 million last week, because everybody in the room have a general understanding that we all are wealthy, or at least on our way. So bragging about the amount of money you make is irrelevant, because you're on a path to prosperity and a path of growth. So if you're bragging about $100,000, you're supposed to be trying to grow. So $100,000 shouldn't be a lot of money to you in 2-3 years, because you're on a path to growth, which is why rich people and wealthy people do not brag about how much money they have. And not all of them. I mean, you have the Floyd Mayweathers of the world, where his whole personality is about, Floyd Money Mayweather, and I love Floyd, and that's his personality. That's what he adopted. But that's what people expect all rich people to act like, and that's not how rich people act. How rich people act, they talk about assets, they talk about impact, and they talk about what they can do to help you out, because they always want to help you if you are around them. The hard part is getting access to them. And that's the part that is kept away from most people. When you get around the right people, they all want to help you. The problem is most of our people have not adopted the mindset that will allow them to even attract and get around those type of people. And that's the issue. So you got to look yourself in the mirror and say, what is about me that is attracting these type of negative people? What energy am I giving off, or what energy am I allowing in my space and my boundaries? And it's okay to set boundaries with your life, with your health, and with your wealth. And another thing in the Black community we need to do is learn how to divide your friends and your family up. I got friends and family that when I want to go and get a drink at the bar, or I want to go to the club, I want to go get off the hookah, which I don't do and I don't drink, but I'm just using that as an example. When I want to do that, I know exactly who I need to call. That don't make them a bad person, because they're the person to call when it's time to party. Yes. And it don't make them a bad person when I'm trying to start a business, they're not the person that I'm going to call. So we have to learn how to separate our friends. And a lot of times in the Black community, it's either black or white, like hot or cold, and it's not like that. There's a lot of great areas in life and business, and you got to be willing to keep those long-term relationships, because that person that hits the bar all the time, you never know. They might own the bar in the next 5 years. So they might get their millionaire mindset together, and you don't want to cut that relationship off just because you want to go hang around someone else that's doing 10 times better. So we have to look at relationships as what they are and not what we want them to be. If that relationship is solely a person you reminisce about the old days in high school, keep that person around when you want to have your high school graduation reunion. So that's a perfect person leading up to the high school graduation reunion. But when you're trying to get rich, you need to get around those other individuals who are talking about assets, properties, LLCs, business, getting a trust. You need to get around those people, and it's not a bad thing to have both of them as a friend. So you have to be willing to balance both.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I have a planner that I'm working on called the Daily Connect, and it's about from a relation to my business. And it's all about connecting with people, places, products, and things to help level up your life or advance your life. But one of the things I have in there, thank you. I'll make sure when it's done, I'll send you one. But one of the things I have in there is I have this thing called people mapping, and it's placing people in strategic boxes. Not everybody has to be, how do I say? Not everybody has to have a purpose like, oh, I need to talk to James because James is going to help me make money. That's not always the case. Some people are that know what you need them for. But again, knowing who to reach out to. I have certain friends. If I know I want an honest conversation about my actions or something, there's a few key friends like Chantel and Rochelle. I can call them and they will tell me, Jackie, you're doing too much. That this is wrong. Or if I want to be in a space where I want to be validated in my wrongness, which I don't really work in that space, but I'm just using it as an example. I know there's a few key friends you can call because they're going to call you. You have to know where to place people, and doesn't mean they're right or wrong. You just have to know when and where to reach them, and when they serve you, I guess, and determining that. But you talked about access to these people, and I know people are going to be like, James, Jackie, how do you get access to these millionaires? Are there any tips you can ask people? And it's not necessarily millionaires, but people with the millionaire mindset, I would say. How can someone go about connecting or reaching out just even for advice to these people? How can they start finding them?
Yeah, so one of the things I had to realize and switch my mindset coming from the place that I came from is where you are and who you are around. Sorry about that. Where you are and who you are around is based on the person you've become. So if you want to become a better person, if you want to get around better people, you have to look at yourself in the mirror and become a better person. And what I mean by that is if you want to get around somebody that is worth 10 times the amount of money you're worth or whatever, and you're trying to get around somebody that could help you, figure out how you can help them and have no emotional strings attached to the outcome. So just because somebody is wealthy in one area doesn't mean they got their whole life together. Right? So let's say you're a planner and you're somebody that could really organize some things for an individual. And you see this person is wealthy, they're successful in their area, but they got one blind side, which we all have, where they need assistance with. Come to them with an action plan, showing them how you can help them. Don't talk about the money. Don't talk about the access you need. Talk about how you can help and benefit them. And what's going to happen is reciprocity. Once you help them, one thing about wealthy people is they don't like to be one-upped by somebody helping them. So if you help them, they're going to try to figure out how they can help you so they can feel even. They don't want to feel like they're a freeloader, right? Because that's how they got to where they're at, by over-delivering on the value. So you got to figure out how you can over-deliver on the value to these people and get in the room and get invited for a reason, right? So before I even had a business, and I had a skill in media. So I used to get invited to events and things like that, just to follow around and document as a videographer, self-made millionaires and their speeches and all of that. Now, how I got there is I wanted to get into this conference. I'm gonna tell you a quick story. I wanted to get into this conference. The conference cost $4,000. I had just quit my job and went full-time as an entrepreneur with the business that I had before Black Millionaires. And in that business, I really didn't know how to run a business. I didn't understand what I was doing. But one thing I did know is I didn't have a lot of money and I didn't have a lot of time because my money was running out. I didn't have $4,000, but I learned the power of proximity. I couldn't get into this conference. So what I did is I looked up at the event and looked up at all the speakers and said, all right, I'm going to reach out to every last one of these speakers and say, hey, do you have a video guy that's trailing you around documenting this process so you can post it up on social media? Because you have a global following. You have people in the UK, London, Africa that follow you who can't come to this event in Atlanta. So you need to get this process documented so you can share this out to your YouTube, your Instagram, your Twitter. None of them responded to me for that event. But one of them followed up with me and said, hey, I just checked my email. I have another event that I'm doing. If you're able to do this event, come out. Here's the time. Here's the place. And just give them my name and tell them you're my videographer and you can come in. At that point, I got in. I got my foot in the door. And here's the trick. Here's what I did. Because I'm a marketer and I'm a brander. I didn't just show up. I showed up with a shirt that had my name on the back of it and my social media on the back of it. So when I left out of there, I went in broke. I didn't have really no money, no clients. I went in broke, but I left out with $10,000 worth of contracts to do media for all of these other wealthy people because they were jealous because this one person had a guy trailing them with the camera and doing all this. I'm now in this situation, I'm just like a lot of other people. I'm broke. However, I figured out a way to create value that got me in a room with other rich people. And now I walked out with $10,000 in contracts and commitments that allowed me to go and reinvest into my business, that allowed me to get to where I'm at today. It's the access. Now, how did I get access? By providing value. Now, here's the thing that people missed. I didn't charge that guy a dime.
Yes.
I didn't send him an invoice. I didn't say, hey, this is my fee. I know my worth. Your worth is subjective to the place that you're in and the people that you're around. If you're really good at media, but you're in the middle of a forest, it don't matter. Your worth doesn't matter at that point because the person who understands how to maneuver around in that forest is the person who's actually worth the most at that time. So that's one thing I had to realize. Your worth is subjective, and you got to go, and in every room you got to establish your value because it's going to be tested every single day. Mm-hmm. And those individuals that I did business with, they still follow me today. They connected me to other ways to make money, and they probably don't even remember that was one of the things that catapulted my career in media because I had lost a whole bunch of money spending it on these cameras and all this other crazy stuff that I didn't need. And that was some money that I used to pay my rent for like 6 months because I was in a place where, I was going to have to call my family and ask them for some money because I'm like, man, I was messed up. However, after that day, I'm like, man, access to wealth is more important than money because I used to be sending people invoices and doing all this and I'm charging my worth. And then I got to a place where I was able to communicate my worth instead of, being angry at not being paid my worth. And then after I was able to communicate and show my worth, the invoices kept coming and getting paid.
Yes, and it's it goes back to that age old saying, your network is your net worth. You know what I mean? The people,
Yes.
And I, as much as I have my business, I still volunteer. I literally just sent an email 2 nights ago to a company that has products that I want access to for future things. I literally said, hey, I would love to volunteer. And I got a response, but you have a big business. Are you looking to be paid? I said, hey, I'm here to be of service. Whatever that means for you is whatever that means. If they cut me a little check, great. But being in the room with people where then I can sell myself, not even sell myself. It's not even selling yourself. It's having a conversation. And I tell people, it's the saying I got from that TV show, New Amsterdam, when he asked, how can I help? I've adopted that mentality in how can I help you? Yes, we all need money to pay bills and stuff. But that $3,000 to do the job, you don't realize that you're possibly leaving 20, $30,000 on the table because you were so focused on that 3,000 that you didn't see the value of the opportunity in which you were in. And that
Yes.
3,000 can be tripled because one client, they really like what you do, they will hire you again. As a former publicist, I don't do PR anymore in that scope, but I used to work with agencies all the time and work with people, and I found a value for myself because they hated doing reports. I love doing presentations and reports. I could sit all day and do them. And I, took one that my client had. I gave what they wanted, but I updated it in a way that I think it should have been done. That changed the standard. And I quickly realized, especially when I left corporate and I decided to do my own thing, I can offer other publicists the value of creating a report because one, I know what it needs to be in it. I know how to communicate because I am a publicist. I'm also cutting your time in half and I'm saving
Yes.
you from doing it. From then, doors have opened up because I was able to be a solution to a problem. And again, sometimes in the beginning, I never charged people, but I'm like, oh man, I'm doing this. But the value is they realize, okay, we want her to do it. We see the value, we see the return. Let's put a budget in place for her. And it works. But you talked about something that I want to reference. You mentioned, you know, being the person you want to become, being the type of person you want to be around. A lot of people have this imposter syndrome thing going on because, they do say fake it till you make it. But if you're not 100% feeling like that because you don't have the money or you don't have the lavish cars, how do you encourage people to fake who they want to be until it becomes a reality, and how do they overcome this I'm being fake situation, because this is a big thing now, this imposter syndrome?
Yeah, so I think that is the wrong way to go about approaching it, trying to fake it till you make it. Here's why: because it's so hard to be someone else. It's so hard to fake like you have money and you have wealth and all that. And it takes so much time away from actually being able to build it. And one of the things about a lot of wealthy people is they were in your position. So they can see right through the whole fake it till you make it. Let me give you an example. I was just at a Lamborghini event with multi-millionaires, billionaires. I mean, these are the top 1% of the world that got privately invited to this event. I don't own a Lamborghini. I can buy one, but if I buy one, it's going to stretch me, right? I'm not there acting like I'm about to buy this Lamborghini. I'm saying, oh, I'm putting this on my goal list in order to acquire it. And guess what? The guy I was talking to is the head of marketing for a Lamborghini. So we exchanged information, and he like, look, when you get ready, make sure you hit me up. And we networked and connected with each other. But I didn't get invited to that event trying to fake it till I made it. I got invited to that event because I'm actually building something so I can actually make it. Right? So a lot of people don't realize is time is so important. So if you're spending all your time trying to fake something and be this facade, eventually you're going to have to take off the costume and be yourself. And what happens when you fake it till you make it and you get in a room and you blow it because people see right through you and you actually can't deliver on the results. And now you get bombarded from that access forever because you lied. Right? So a lot of times the reason people can't blow up on social media, for example, is because they try to quote unquote create content when really what you should do is document content of what you are doing currently and how your life is for real. Because no matter what you are going through, there's 7 billion people or 8 billion now on this planet. Somebody's going to be able to connect with you. So stop trying to sell or connect with 8 billion people, because there's some people who are not from poverty and not from the east side of Detroit like me who will not connect to my story. Guess what? I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to the young man walking up the street at 12 o'clock at night trying to get home, know he about to get in trouble because the street light's on and he's supposed to be home. That's how I was. So I know it's millions of people in Memphis and Florida and Georgia and California and Compton and Chicago who can relate to me. Those are the people I'm talking to. I'm not talking to the other individual who went to a private school or went here and it can't relate to me. Not saying nothing wrong with a private school. My best friend went to a private school. My kids more than likely are going to go to a private school. But what I'm saying is, you can't relate to everybody. So stop trying
Yeah.
and be yourself. And when you be yourself authentically 100%, your tribe is going to flock to you. Your tribe is going to come. And one of the people that does this 100% and embrace this 100% is Super Sen. I don't know if you know who she is, but she's herself 100%. I mean, she's on live with her kids. She's eating oatmeal in the bed. Her kids running around in the background, and she's a multimillionaire. And people expect her to act like a multimillionaire, but she got to where she is by being herself 100% authentically. So I don't subscribe to the whole fake it till you make it, because if I did subscribe to that, I mean I'll be running around living paycheck to paycheck because I'm trying to keep up with the Joneses. And the reality is the Joneses don't know you. They're never going to acknowledge you. Nothing is never enough. So if I go around faking like I got a Lamborghini, then the guys that got private jets are going to say, well, you don't have a jet.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? So then I go fake like I got a jet. Then they're going to say, well, you don't have a boat.
Yes.
Then I go fake like I got a boat. Then people going to say, well, you don't have a skyscraper downtown. So at what point do you actually become yourself? Right? So I encourage people to share their story. If you broke, you broke. I was delivering pieces before I started my business. I show those pictures now. I wish I had the pictures that I can pull up right now. I was delivering pieces. So for the individual who are out there doing DoorDash, Uber Eats, Instacart, trying to make it happen, that's listening to this, I was in your seat at one point. I did not fake it till I made it. I saved till I was actually able to invest in something that I can own. So that's what I would tell people. Don't try to fake it till you make it, because faking it till you make it only works for probably 1% of the population, and the other 99% are at home broke because they were trying to put on this facade for somebody that don't even know they exist. Like your social media, a lot of social media isn't real.
Absolutely.
So focus on your real life and making yourself. And I think I'm addressing the question.
Yes.
What you mean by, if I'm not, let's say you're around everybody work 15, 20 million, 100 million, and you're sitting there and like, hey, I work a regular job. Like, why do I fit in here? You fit in because you're on your way. And you got to sit around and be a sponge. So you're not supposed to be the person, if you're in a room and you're talking the most, you're not learning, you're teaching. Right? So if you're around people and you feel like, man, I don't belong here, the best thing to do is shut up and take notes and use your 2 ears and not your one mouth, and actually be a sponge so you can soak up that information. And they're going to be appreciative that you're just a fly on the wall and a sponge soaking it up. Then they're going to know that you're open for mentorship. And then they can actually help you become that millionaire or that billionaire or that businesswoman or business person that you actually want to become. But if you're trying to fake it till you make it and buy everybody shots at the bar and all of that, they're going to think, oh, she don't need mentorship because she already got it. Let me go mentor this other person who actually looks like they want mentorship. And you're going to miss out on all the opportunity trying to fake like you already had the opportunity. And it's not worth it. So I would just say be yourself, be authentic. And I didn't get to where I got to faking it till I made it. Because if I did, I would have never been on, I would have never been in the position I'm in, because a lot of the people that came around and mentored me would have overlooked me because they would have thought, he balling already. He don't need a mentor.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? And you can block your blessings when you're trying to prove to everybody that you're already rich before you even get there.
Absolutely. It's so funny that you say that, because I remember being in one of my internships, and I don't, quick story, I don't come from a PR background. I didn't in the beginning. I actually studied fashion design, wanted to be a bra designer, hence all the shoes back there. I love fashion and accessories. And I struggled for a long time to get into what I was doing, into PR communications, because they all only saw fashion. I talk fast, I write fast, a little form of ADHD sometimes. So, I can misspell words and whatever. And it was, oh, you're just good at fashion, stay there. And I remember I landed an internship because I told the lady to take a chance on me. I'm going to provide something different. And she did. But I wanted so bad to fit into the PR mold because I was told, well, this is how we do it. And I was messing up every single day.
Yes.
Small things like spelling YouTube with a capital Y, capital T, wasn't doing it. Small things that I didn't know because it didn't come to me. And I remember doing, we had an event for a yoga company, and I remember I was just in my, I just did me. And I remember my boss came to me and she said, this is you at your best potential. Whatever it is that you're doing, unlearn everything that we taught you to a point and just be you. And I was 22, 23 at that time.
Yeah.
And that really changed my life because I struggled for so long wanting to fit in because I was like, okay, I want to be in this industry, but I don't have it. And I thought I needed all these things to get there. And it
Yeah.
showed. And when I started being myself, when I tell you the door started opening for me, and I don't do things properly. I don't, according to the rule book. And hence I started my own business because I'm like, I don't fit into this mold. And I realized it's okay. I'm okay being a square peg and not in a round hole. I'm
Yeah.
okay to not fit in. And when you become yourself, so many more things happen. And also energy. People feel your energy. Like when you start getting out of your slump and you start doing you, the compliments and the things people start coming to you because it's a natural gravitation. My sister
Yeah.
started, working out again and feel, and small changes. She hasn't changed much, but we were out the other day and this lady at this market literally stopped her and was like, I want to tell you, you just look so good. You just your outfit, your energy. And she was like shocked. And I said, when you change your perspective on what's been holding you back and you literally just do you with no cares, like you just said, the gravitational pull, people will flock to you because they feel like there's something that is connecting them to you. So I love that you really talked about that because everyone's talking about imposter syndrome, and I don't feel like myself. You feel an imposter because you are not being yourself.
Yeah.
You're not walking the alignment.
Let me tell you this quick story, and I never really told this story publicly, but I'm gonna share it. So when I got to Atlanta, I had heard about the whole fake it till you make it, and people in Atlanta are fake and all of this. So when I got to Atlanta, I didn't really know who was successful and who was not because it's broke people in Benzes in Atlanta, right? So you never really know who's successful, who's not. But I got around this one guy, and I'm not going to mention his name because you guys are probably going to know who he is. But at the gathering spot, they do this thing called circles, which basically means individual. So they have like a circle of um, um, people who are trying to be in corporate leadership, a circle of entrepreneurs, a circle of healthcare professionals, a circle of female entrepreneurs or women entrepreneurs. You see what you see what I'm saying? So they had a circle of new starting entrepreneurs, right? And there was this real successful guy there, and he was like the big homie, like the mentor that was supposed to mentor these 8 people that were there. Now we sat there for an hour and a half. I asked like 10 or 15 questions. Everybody else ain't asked no questions. The guy got pissed off. Sorry if I'm not able to say it.
Go ahead.
But
Yeah.
he got so pissed off, he got up and he asked everybody, show me your bank account. Like y'all acting like y'all worth more than me. This guy, and there was one other young lady that was there out of the like 9 or 10 people that he was mentoring, because this is a real successful guy. So he's like, my time is very valuable. Like I'm doing this for the gathering spot, and y'all are not actually being open to my mentorship. Y'all acting like y'all already made it. And because I was being so open and vulnerable about my business model, this guy literally sat there and told me, like, no, what you're doing is it's not going to work. Like, you don't know what you're doing. You know, this doesn't work. You don't have your numbers right. You don't know accounting. You don't know this. So he cut into me and really like embarrassed me in front of all these people. That was probably about 4 to 5 years ago. And now I'm where I'm at because I took his feedback. I shut that old business down that I had that wasn't working, that I was losing a bunch of money. He told me, like, look, man, you need to go back and get a side hustle. Maybe you got to go back to corporate America, get a job. But what you're doing now isn't working. I took that advice. I pivoted. And now and he don't even know that he changed my life like that because he was mentoring so many people. He probably don't even remember me. Right. But it was just a full circle moment because now he had a conference. I went to his conference. He invited me, things like that. And We're close friends. And I told him that story, and he was like, "That was you. I do remember that now." And those same people who were acting like they were too big and they didn't need mentorship and they didn't need this and that, those same people are still struggling today because they were trying to fake it until they made it, and they didn't get the proper mentorship because they thought they already had it. And they actually looked down on me because I was being vulnerable. I was telling them, "Look, man, I only got 15,000 in my bank account. That's all I have to my name. Like, I'm a full-time entrepreneur. I'm barely paying rent. Like, what do I do?" I'm being very vulnerable 5, 6 years ago. He helped me out, told me, like, "Look, this is what you need to do. Probably go get a job, get a side hustle." That's why I started delivering pizzas. I went back to corporate. I saved up my money, and I saved a year worth of expenses. And then when I quit to go out and start my media company, I had a year worth of runway to reinvest all my profits. So now I'm able to actually make money. And when I started making real money, I didn't need the money because I had a year worth of expenses saved up. So I didn't have to pay myself a big salary the first year, which allowed me to go out and hire other individuals. And that helped me scale my company to where it's at. So when people look at where my company is at and all the things that we do and the traveling and the interviews, and they see all the followers online and all that, just know I sacrificed and I got mentorship from real Black millionaires that showed me the way. And I didn't fake it until I made it, because I really still, I don't feel like I made it, right? From where I come from, I made it, but where I'm going, I'm just scratching the surface. So I would say always seek mentorship no matter what level you're at. Don't never feel like you're too big to listen to somebody and to take advice, because if I would have felt like I was too big 6 years ago, I wouldn't be where I'm at today, because I'll still be that struggling guy with that crazy company that wasn't making any money and wasn't working. But I was humble enough to express that I was losing money, that I was stressed out, that I was barely paying my bills, that I didn't know what I was doing in front of strangers. And that allowed me, to get to where I'm at today, because I was opening myself up to real life mentorship.
I love that. Honestly, I feel like I could sit and talk to you for hours, but I am respectful of your time. And you dropped so much because, God, he's worth money. You can't just be out here, y'all getting him free. So you got to take some notes, okay? To drop gems in the chat. Drop thoughts and comments about anything James or I had said, or anything that resonated with you. But I know we have a few more minutes, so I want to ask you two quick things.
Okay.
5 key things that people can do to build a brand through social media.
Oh, I love that. And I'm gonna give you 6 because I love over delivering, right? All right. So when you are focusing on building your brand online, you want to focus on content, right? Content is documenting your process. So whatever you do, if you packing t-shirts, if you only got 10 packages, document your process on the 10 packages. Because what's going to happen on social media is how the algorithms work. Everybody's going to get their 5 seconds of fame, their viral moment, their shade room moment, where everybody's going to be looking at your page. But if you ain't documented your process over the last 2-3 years, you ain't going to have nothing to sell people or have nothing to show these new eyeballs that come to your page. So you got to document your process. We just saw a guy get hired by Oprah. He had 15 views on YouTube. So it's not about the views. It's about actually putting out the content, so you never know who's watching. Side note, Chloe and Halle, the one that signed to, I believe, Beyonce, they got discovered by Beyonce off YouTube as well, right? So, and they didn't have a lot of views, right? They wasn't world famous. So put your content out, right? So that's number 1. Consistency. So you can't be scoreboard watching. So what a lot of people do is they put their content out and they say, "Oh man, I only got 10 likes. I'm taking this down. Oh man, I only got 50 views. I'm taking this down. Oh man, I only got 1,000 followers. I'm not posting my stuff up." You have to be consistent for years. I don't know anybody who's rich that hasn't been doing it 5 to 7 years. That's how long it takes, right? It's going to take 5 to 7 years of consistency to see some form of growth in some form of progress. So if you adapt that mindset, it might take a year, but you adapt the mindset, I'm gonna do it for 5 years and see if it works. If you adopt that mindset, you will get way far ahead of the competitors because most people are scoreboard watching. Meaning every time they make a point or make a good basket, they're looking at the scoreboard. And when you're looking away at the scoreboard, your defender is taking the ball from you or they're going right around you and scoring on you. So even if you did something good, the fact that you're checking the scoreboard means you're taking your eye off progress moving forward. Right? So if you're running a race, the worst thing you can do is look back at the competitors or what you used to do. So put the content out, like I said, be consistent with it. Make sure you collaborate. And when you're collaborating with people, collaborate up, meaning, with people who are larger than you, got a bigger presence than you. Collaborate across, which most people don't do. Collaborate with people that are at the same level as you. So if you got 1,000 followers, go live with somebody that got 1,000 or 1,500 followers, 2,000 followers. Y'all can both add value and collaborate together. And also, if you're getting mentorship, you got to pave the way. So collaborate down. If you at 100,000 followers, give that person that at 5,000, 10,000 followers or whatever a chance to collaborate with you because you never know who's going to be that next big star and the next big hit. And you want to get them early and connect with people early. That way you can grow and build with them. So I don't know what number that is. I don't know what number I'm on, but I'm going to just keep going.
Drop it, Jack. I think that was like three or four in there. But that was a great. I've never heard this. I've heard the collaborate up or like scale up, but I've never heard it in across and down.
Yeah.
So that was really interesting. And then lastly, before we go, what is one mistake you see people making with their businesses? One common mistake.
Oh man, it's a very common mistake that I see a lot on social media, and we talked about this a little earlier. But what it is trying to appear bigger than you are. So I have some friends that has a clothing line, right? And they were struggling with their clothing line for years because they were trying to sell $70 t-shirts, $80 t-shirts because they wanted to seem like they were like Supreme. They wanted to be like Gucci. They wanted to be like Louis, right? And they wanted to sell these high-end, high-quality things when that wasn't what their brand was about. Their brand was for the people. So the people that wanted to support them couldn't even afford it. And then they humbled themselves, brought their t-shirts down to $10, $20, $15 with the same profit margins that they had before. And now they're making millions and millions of dollars selling $10, $15 t-shirts. So what a lot of people do is they try to appear like they made it way before they made it. Let me tell you this. 80% of the stuff you see on social media is fake. Yeah. It's scripted out. It's fake. And they're at home trying to think about how to go viral. And people who do that, they might go viral once or twice, but they never build nothing really sustainable. It's harder to create content than it is to document content. So just document your journey. If you only got 10 sales today, say that. If you had a Black Friday and you only made $1,000, document that. Why? Because when you make 100,000, most people ain't gonna believe that you started at the situation that they're in, and they're not gonna be inspired because they're gonna think, oh, that's daddy's money. You inherited this money. You this, that, and the third. Somebody put you on. But when you can show proof that, hey, I started here. I started with 10 orders. I started with $1,000 months. I started with 100 followers or whatever. You're going to be able to show that growth, and you're going to inspire the next generation. And those people are going to buy into your brand because they see that you are a real person. So one of the biggest thing I see is everybody trying to cap and fake it till they make it. And your money is not as long as you think it is. Mm-hmm. Which what I mean is if you try to fake it, you can't fake it around people who have real money. So, all right, you try to fake like you go, I'm going to go cash out on a Rolex because everybody else online got a Rolex. All right, well, now you just spend all your money on a Rolex. Now you can't run ads on your business. So now you're not bringing in revenue and you looking like you made it, but everybody know you didn't make it, right? So I would say trying to fake and trying to pretend and lying to themselves, the worst thing you can do is lie to yourself. be real, and be honest with yourself, and document your process. So that's the biggest mistake I see people make.
I This whole conversation was more than a word. Like it there were so many gems in here. I feel like we can go for hours. Y'all drop your questions in the comment. We'll make sure to get them back to James. How can people find you to support your brand and business, to receive your content? How could they find you online?
Yeah, I always give people two options because some people might like my movement but don't like me. That's fine. So if you like the movement and you want to support the movement, you can go on Instagram Black Millionaires underscore or YouTube Black Millionaires. It's pretty much Black Millionaires across all platforms. We own the trademark to the name, so we're probably gonna be the first person to pop up when you're searching on all platforms. So Black Millionaires across all social media platforms. And if you want to connect with me, the entrepreneur, James Hill, the person, James Hill TV across all platforms, Twitter, Instagram, you name it. So I appreciate you and your team for bringing me on. I really enjoyed this conversation. I think it's going to be a fruitful conversation for new entrepreneurs and business people who are watching this. And I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And I appreciate you too. Thank you again for sharing so much wealth of knowledge at such a young age, and just being transparent with your story and your honesty. As you said, a lot of people are capping. So it's great to have honest, real conversation so people can resonate. So, you guys, again, drop your thoughts in the comments. Check out James online. Support. Continue to check out the rest of this conference for all the great gems that are dropped. And it's your girl, Jackie Clark. And again, with my special guest, James Hill, signing out.